Hello everyone, my name is Diana. You're welcome to another video. Hope you're all doing well. For those who don't know me yet, or for those who have not watched any video of mine, I'm a registered nurse who migrated to the UK, currently practicing, and on this channel I make videos about nursing, current updates in nursing practice, health tips, beauty, lifestyle. I also share tips on how to help overseas nurses who are registered anywhere within the world and wish to practice in the UK. If these topics are something you're interested in, kindly consider subscribing as well as pressing the notification bell so that I don't miss any video upload. In today's video, we're going to discuss something very important, and it is about the visa restrictions that come with the Tier 2 visa. Normally, if you wish to work in the UK as a registered nurse, you do come on a Tier 2 work visa. There are certain restrictions with this visa that I did not know until I got here, and I wish that I knew. So I'm just going to be sharing these visa restrictions that come with the Tier 2 visa so that you would consider that or also bear that in mind before you migrate. And even if you've just arrived, just bear these restrictions with the Tier 2 visa in mind. So one important thing you need to bear in mind is the working hours and the extra hours you're allowed to do. So normally, if you are granted a Tier 2 visa to work as a registered nurse, let me use myself as an example because I'm a registered nurse, so just to make it easier for people to understand. So you're normally given a full-time offer and you normally work 37.5 hours a week. Aside the 37.5 hours, you are allowed only to work 20 hours extra. So I normally work like 3 long days in a week. So you realize that you think you might have a lot of time within the week that you wish you could do extra hours if you wish, but you are not allowed to do more than 20 hours. With this 20 hours, you can do that extra hours in your own hospital, or you can register with an agency. Either you're working those extra hours in your hospital or with an agency, you are still limited to that just 20 hours. So even if you are on annual leave, you are off for a whole week, you are still allowed to do just that 20 hours extra. And I think the reason why the government puts that restriction in place is because they don't want your attention to be off the sponsored work which actually brought you into this country in the first place. And I think they don't also want you to overwork yourself, because honestly, doing 3 long days within a week or 4 long days within a week, it can be very stressful sometimes. And there should be some working life balance, so it shouldn't always be work. So I think in a way it makes sense, but then sometimes you realize that the salary for nurses in the UK is not really that much, so sometimes you are tempted to do extra hours just to balance or supplement the income, but you are still not allowed to do more than 20 hours. So just bear that in mind, so that if you wish to do extra hours, you make sure you don't do more than 20 hours, because at some point, if it is time for you to apply for indefinite leave after the 5 years, the system keeps record of every hour you do, every number of hours work you do. So it might go against you later on after 5 years when you go in to apply for the indefinite leave to remain. So just bear that in mind, so that if you are working as an agency nurse to do extra shift, or even if you are doing extra hours of work in your hospital, you don't exceed that number of hours, which is 20 hours, so that you don't get yourself into trouble later on when you are ready to apply for the indefinite leave to remain. So that's one thing you have to bear in mind. Another thing to note with this Tier 2 visa, or another restriction with that Tier 2 visa, is that you are not entitled to any public funds. So when you are granted the visa, it's stated clearly in the visa, no recourse to public funds. So what this means is you are not entitled to any child benefits, you are not entitled to tax credits, you are not entitled to housing benefits. So even if you come here and get pregnant, the child is not entitled to any child benefits unless the father of the child has a British passport. That is when the child might be entitled to some benefits. And also, so far as the child is born here, it does not mean the child becomes a British citizen automatically. No, it doesn't work like that. Unless you, the mother of the child, attains your citizenship, that is when the child can also become a citizen. But I know in some countries, so far as the child is born on that same day, the child is automatically a citizen. But over here in the UK, it's not like that. So in this case, the child would not be entitled to any child benefit. And also, God forbid, if for some reasons you are not able to pay your rent, you are not entitled to any housing benefits. All of these comes under that public funds. It's quite unfortunate and a bit unfair sometimes, because if you're on a tier 2 visa, you are working legally, you are paying your tax, you're paying your national insurance and everything. So for you not to be entitled to some of these, it's a bit sad, but that is the case, and that's something you have to bear in mind, that you're not entitled to public funds. So you just have to find ways and means of managing your salary in a way that you don't get yourself into any financial difficulty here. I made a previous video on how to earn extra money as a nurse here in the UK, and you can check it out. I'll also leave the link in the description. And I mean, these are ways that people do earn extra income. So one thing you also have to bear in mind, that if you arrive in the UK, you've started working in a hospital, everything is going well, and for some reasons you have to move from that area to another place, or you just don't like the hospital and you need to move to another hospital, you ask yourself, are you allowed to switch to another hospital? Yes, you are allowed to switch to another hospital. But what comes with this is that you have to apply for a new visa altogether. So the new hospital you're going to would have to apply for a new certificate of sponsorship. With that new certificate of sponsorship, then you have to apply to the Home Office for another visa all over again. So initially, before you come in here, you are given 3 years visa. So you might think that, oh, I've only worked for just 1 year, I still have 2 more years. So if I'm switching to another hospital, why do I need to apply for another visa? That is the restriction with this tier 2 visa. You can't just move from one place to the other just like that. You are allowed to move though, but then that is the restriction that comes with it. The new hospital we are going to would have to apply for a new certificate of sponsorship, with which you would apply for a new visa. So you go to the Home Office to do all these fingerprints all over again, apply for a new visa, and you get a new BRP. I've personally gone through this before because I've changed hospitals, so I no longer have the old BRP I have. I used to work with, I have a new BRP now. So not until you spend 5 years in this country and get the indefinite leave to remain, unfortunately, you have to be doing this over and over again. So if you want to move from one hospital to the other within these 5 years, anytime you have to move, you would have to change the visa, or you have to go through that visa process all over again. You have to pay the visa fee. At least the good thing is that the new hospital will pay for the certificate of sponsorship, and you have to bear the cost of the visa fee. So that is something you have to bear that in mind. But one thing I always say is this should not restrict you or make you get stuck in one hospital or in an environment that you don't like. No, if there is the need for you to move, you just have to move. The visa fee should not scare you or make you stay in an environment that you don't enjoy working in. If there is a need for you to move, you just have to move some way, somehow. So that is one thing to bear in mind. If you're moving from one hospital to the other, it is allowed, but you just have to go through that visa process all over again. It can be a bit stressful, but then it is worth it if you don't like where you are. So just bear that in mind as well. All right, so we also need to talk about the contracted number of hours that you normally work in the UK when you arrive. So even before you arrive in the UK, you get an offer letter which will state the number of hours you're going to work within the week. And for full-time contracted hours, it's normally 37.5. So if you cannot commit to 37.5 hours a week, just bear that in mind, that you cannot go below that. Normally, to get a certificate of sponsorship to come into the UK, it would be like a full-time job. Using myself as an example, as a nurse, you work 3 long days in a week most of the time, and it can be very, very, very stressful. And if you arrive and you feel like, oh, this work is so tedious, I cannot do it anymore, you cannot reduce your working hours to work like part-time. I'm yet to see a hospital that would sponsor anybody to come all the way from overseas into this country to work permanent part-time. I'm yet to see a hospital that has done that. So just bear that in mind. The least you can do as a permanent tier 2 worker is 30 hours, and you can't go beyond that. So bear that in mind. At least you should work 30 hours a week. So if you think this 37.5 hours might be too stressful for you, just consider this very carefully. If you come on a spousal visa, fine, you are allowed to work any number of hours. But if you are the principal applicant, the tier 2 principal applicant, then you should be able to commit to that full-time 37.5 hours that will be stated in your contract. The last thing I would like to mention is that when you are on the tier 2 visa, you are kind of a bit limited when it comes to other job opportunities you can explore. So most of the employers here in the UK don't offer tier 2 sponsorship. And for you to be able to move from one hospital to the other, like I said, you need an employer that will be willing to apply for a certificate of sponsorship for you before you can even go ahead and apply for the new visa all over again. So if you find an interesting job which you think you qualify for but does not offer tier 2 sponsorship, then it means you are kind of stuck. You can't apply for such jobs. I will use myself as an example so that at least people who are in my position can actually relate. I have a bit of public health background and experience as well. So I saw this wonderful public health job. I started filling out the application form. I put in my name, date of birth and all that. And then it got to the point where they asked visa status. The moment I selected tier 2 visa, the next message I got was, unfortunately, you cannot go ahead with the visa application because we do not offer tier 2 sponsorship. So when it happens like that, what do? You are kind of stuck. So you can't even go ahead and apply for such jobs. So the only jobs you can apply for is employers who are willing to apply for tier 2 sponsorship. And you realize that most of those jobs are ward-based nursing care jobs. That's what I've realized. There are so many other nursing specialties that you can't even apply if you are on the tier 2. So just bear that in mind, that there are some job opportunities that you may not qualify for if you are on that tier 2 visa, even if you have the qualification or even if you have the experience even back home and you think you can do that. If they don't offer tier 2 sponsorship, you are stuck. You can't even apply. So not until you get that indefinite leave to remain after the 5 years, there are a bit of restriction when it comes to other job opportunities you can apply for. So that is one thing to consider as well before considering migrating to the UK. So we've come to the end of this video, and I hope this has really enlightened most of those who have now started this process of migrating to the UK, or even those who have arrived and do not really know all of these restrictions in place. I didn't know until after I've worked for some few months, and then I got to realize, oh, so these are the restrictions with this tier 2 visa, and I wish I knew some of them before coming here. So that's the main reason why I've actually dedicated time to do this video, just to educate a lot of people out there, just so that you are aware of these visa restrictions before you make any decision. And even if you are already here, you've just arrived and you are not really aware of this, at least you bear that in mind. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and thank you so much for watching. Keep sharing and consider subscribing as well, and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss any video I share on this channel. See you in my next video.